Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Briq Bucks Live. Once again, I am your host, Jim. I am here with Shane, and I say this all the time, and it sounds not true, but it truly is. Every time I have a guest, I am doing jumping jacks over who we have. So, Marc from Briq Foundation, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, real quick, I have posted a lot of videos and when it comes to Lego investing and reselling and all that good stuff. I kind of, because I have a history of being a reseller, I every now and then share bits and pieces of my story. But I was just curious. We really didn't have enough time in the virtual green room. If you could just share how long you've been an AFL. Maybe it's been for a very long time, or what made you uh, decide that you're going to start Briq Foundation.
Sure. Actually, it all started really because of COVID. I was laid off in the beginning of March, and I kind of was just sitting around wondering what I was going to do. I kind of took from my savings, and I was like, okay, well, what's next? And while I was wondering what I was going to do, I was going to a few of the stores that were open, and I was like, I've been bored at the house. I haven't played with Lego since I was maybe in middle school, and it's something that I really enjoyed. So I found a set, and I found a set from 2003 that I haven't seen in a long time on eBay. I was like, you know what, I'll buy that set. And I found a set early at Walmart. And those were the two first videos that I did, is me building. Didn't think anything of it. First video did, of course, no one watched it, like 9 views or something like that. But the other video I posted, all of a sudden got like 120,000 views. And then I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is something that's different. I did not see this coming at all. And so I was like, maybe I could do something with this.
Right.
So I kind of just reached into my childhood. I was like, wow, I could play with toys. Let's see how this works.
Right. So you share something that Shane and I both share is, not only are we a fan of Lego, but we're also content creators for YouTube, which, at times can be a juggling routine in our daily lives. It's, there's all kinds of behind the scenes stuff that people would just be wide eyed if they knew what is really going on. Right. So, one of the things I really love about your channel is because, speaking of being busy and speaking of, not having any time for almost anything, I always want to be up to date when it comes to Lego news and things of that sort. And I find, if it's been a couple days and I want to see, what's coming out, you're like my number one resource. I mean, I will just go, I'll say to myself, okay, what's going on with Briq Foundation? And I'll catch some of your videos, and then I'll go through, number 2, number 3, number 4,
right,
on my list. And so that's something I really enjoy about your channel, is because it's so informative and so action packed. I mean, I see some of your videos where, I'm looking to write about content in my blog. And, I've recently, I don't think it's posted yet, but I've talked about the new DeLorean that's coming out.
Right.
And you were the first, YouTube channel that I caught with that breaking news. So, I mean, I just love the value of your YouTube channel, and I just think it's a great resource.
Yeah. And that all came, I didn't even know that's kind of the direction I was going to go in. At first, I was going to build sets and do reviews. That didn't really get much traction, but I didn't really know of traction really. Just kind of start making videos. And all of a sudden I went on Instagram and I started posting on there, and some people started reaching out to me just organically, like, oh, have you seen this? And it's a set that hasn't even been released yet. And I started getting these leaked images from people in the community. And so I didn't know anything about Lego, like doing strikes or anything like that. So I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about this. And it's just kind of how it formed, me more talking about what's coming up, what's going next, versus doing like live builds or anything.
Right. Because when we were planning to do this video, Shane and I were chatting, and, we've had people on the past that's, the content is really heavy when it comes to reselling and things like that. And Shane said, what should we call Mark? And I said, as far as I'm concerned, he's our Lego insider. I mean, we get, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I could be wrong. I think you were the first person that talked about the Titanic that was coming out, and I did say this in the green room. I'm a huge fan of your thumbnail, so whenever I saw that video of the Titanic and that huge monstrosity on your thumbnail, I'm like, you're darn right. I'm stopping what I'm doing and I'm clicking this channel right now and seeing what's going on with that.
Yeah, I'm definitely thankful for anybody that I get a lot of my information from Instagram and people that post. So I'm grateful for anybody that does allow me to put those kind of like that information online.
Gotcha. So, we said in the green room that, we usually do Lego investing and reselling stuff, but, I kind of wanted this to be a little bit of, love of Lego.
Right.
So, I have my favorite themes. I was just curious, if you have a particular theme. I know I caught the Friends video where your wife was like, the Friends theme is it.
Right. For her, that's definitely for her. For me, the very first set I ever remember like really getting excited for, I believe it was like around like 95, and it was the space shuttle. And I was lucky enough, I had a video about it called eBay Wars, where I actually was able to bid on that and get that actual set still sealed. So anything space related, I love space shuttles. You can actually see that in the back.
There you go.
Anything Lego space shuttles, Lego space, I'm obsessed with.
That is awesome. And Shane, since we're talking themes, Shane and I really, I mean, we talk all the time, but funny thing is we're so busy, we're usually talking about brick bucks. I mean, he went to Ireland maybe a month or two ago, and I never even asked him how his trip was. I've always been wanting to find time to ask him about his trip, but I've never even, asked you or even know what your favorite theme is, Shane.
Yeah, I'd probably say architecture.
Okay.
Just for displayability, like you can't really get much better. That new Taj Mahal set, oh well, like that's
I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the U.S. Capitol as well, I think, is one of the better looking architecture sets we've had in the last couple of years. So I love architecture. I have a soft spot for Harry Potter just because I grew up reading that stuff. So when I see the kind of new stuff that they're doing, that Hogwarts Castle set, well, it's such a stunning set, but I don't know how I'll ever find the time to build it. So I've just left it, for this long, and I'm still thinking, and also where will I display it? I have no idea. But that's one that's kind of been there. Like I can't let that get away. I can't let that retire without picking some up. So Harry Potter and architecture.
Gotcha. What
about you?
Myself? Well, funny thing is, I want to say Friends, the theme, not the TV show, just because I'm a reseller and it's treated me quite right. But Star Wars, I don't want to say I was anti-Star Wars 2 years ago. It was more of that was just a universe in itself. I mean, there's like Lego, and then there's Lego Star Wars, right? But slowly I've been peeling back the onion. And things are a little bit more simplified when it comes to Star Wars, and I've tried to do quite a few Star Wars videos this year, just so I could have content to produce, but also become more knowledgeable in it. So I would say right now I'm a fan of Star Wars. There are, I like the Speed Champions. I mean, let me tell you. Your video with the Speed Champions video, I could be wrong. I think you said your favorite one was the Ford Bronco one.
Yeah, 100%. The GT Heritage and Ford Bronco, are.
For me, that's my second favorite one. My first one is the Corvette. I mean, those two Corvettes, boy, do they look super sweet. So that's one of those things where it's like, okay, I really don't have a lot of time for many things, but you're darn right. I'm going to be breaking out that Corvettes whenever it comes out and be building it with my son. So,
that would be my second favorite set from the Ford. Then it would probably be maybe the Toyota Supra, but I haven't even built that one yet.
Right, and the Supra, I was excited for. It wasn't exactly the Supra I was hoping, but it's still a Supra. It's still a Supra, right? So right. I'm going to take it for what it's worth. So.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Hey, Mark. So do you do you build everything that you buy, or is some of it investing, or like do you do any investing at all?
No, I do 100% do invest. So it's going to be, there's sets that I buy and I have a problem with buying. And then they kind of end up being like stored in closets. I wish I had a Lego room that's being in the works right now, but some of the sets I do buy two of. Okay, it's like this one's for me, I'm going to build, and the other one we put aside. Maybe if I think in the future, knowing that there's going to be someone like me, if it's space related, or let's say I've noticed speed champions have looked at other speed champion sets because I was missed out on all these sets for years. I was like, research like maybe I could buy some of them, and those are quite expensive. So I'm assuming speed champions will usually go up in value in a good set, that at least when they retire.
Yeah.
And I almost think that, if you are somebody, an adult that builds Lego sets often, that you don't necessarily need to be a quote unquote reseller and just buy as many of the same speed champion set as you can. But it just makes sense to buy one or two extra so you could fund your hobby.
Right.
You're able to buy more for yourself in the future. So, that's something that I hear from a lot of AFOLs, and that's something they always do whenever I chat with them.
And I'm glad that somebody does do it, because if no one did reselling or bought a set that they weren't going to build, I would never be able to have the set from 95 here. Like I was so grateful to find that.
Yeah. I saw that video. And I mean, it's such a great video. I think you had the brown box and you gave a little bit of a preview on it. So yeah, it was all good stuff, all in all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that inspires me. That inspires me, Mark, to hunt down some of my old childhood Lego sets. I hadn't really thought about doing it until recently, and I actually still have them back in Ireland in a tub somewhere in a garage. But I'd like a seal. I think I'd like a sealed copy. I had early 2000s the cowboy stuff, or the Western stuff. The Fort Legoretto, which was like a fort, and mostly like brown bricks. That was a fantastic set. And then there was a Temple of Anubis, like the old Lego system Egyptian stuff.
Yeah,
there's some great sets that I remember growing up with, and I think it'll be worth it now to go back and try and get sealed copies of those. I don't even want to see the prices of them right now.
Right.
It's crazy. I was actually lucky enough. These were like one-day bids. They just popped up. Wasn't even planning on buying them, and I'm just like, oh, if I rarely ever see these the past year that I was looking, it's like I have to pull the trigger.
Wow. And so you said that you don't have a Lego room right now, but you're building so much stuff. Like where are you going to put that Daily Bugle, for example?
I have no idea.
Go on a regular shelf.
No. I'm maybe doing something with this room. It kind of goes out a little further here, and I do have a few sets up on the side. Usually what happens is I tend to kind of have to play favorites, and if it's something that I really don't want to hold on to or I want to replace it with, then I usually do break it down and sell it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so you mentioned that you started off, you were kind of thinking you're going to make a go at YouTube, and you started with reviews, and then you kind of started transitioning. So how did that transition work in your mind when you started going towards news type content? Was that the kind of thing where it kind of happened by accident and you just stuck with it, or did you kind of start to realize there was a gap there in terms of a lack of other people doing news for Lego?
Well, it was one of those things that I wanted to be a little bit different as far as how I presented some of the sets or some of the news. I wanted to be shown on the camera. I actually, do photography, and so I wanted to give a little bit different spin on broadcasting some of the news. So that's what I was having fun with. In the beginning, it was really hard to do because the threat of Lego banning everyone. I think they've relaxed that a lot lately. And so you do have a lot more channels out there now that are able to broadcast news and everything. But in the beginning, they were taking people out left and right. And really, there was only a few of us that were left unscathed in the beginning. And that was like myself and Briq.
Wow. And so when you when you say banning people, are they putting in copyright complaints or something to YouTube?
Right, yeah,
or?
strikes, yeah, and they'll take down the video. I received 2 strikes in a month, and I was like, oh, this is probably going to be the end of this. That was in February, and so I kind of pulled back. Yeah, so I pulled back, and it's like, one more second, and this is all over. But then they fall off in 90 days, and then you kind of just play the game again.
Wow. What kind of content, is at risk of that? Is it the leak stuff, the rumor stuff?
Right. Anything that they say, it's funny. It's kind of hard to argue with them. I did a video, and it was like a short video of me playing with the Bugatti Chiron, and they banned that when saying that was a copyright image because I showed the box, and that wasn't even a leaked image. And I was like, no, it's been out, and I filled out this long paperwork for them, but they never answered back. It's like, you're going to go through the legal jargon, and if you go through YouTube and say, hey, I want to fight this, then YouTube says, okay, well, it's 100% on you now, and if Lego wants to sue you, they sue you, not YouTube. So you're kind of have to weigh the risks. Is it even worth fighting for that video?
Well,
wow. Well, I know. So you've had your channel out for a while. So I'm not sure. I know during COVID that's whenever you became intimate with Lego again. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the YouTube channel called The Briq Show.
I heard about that's what people were warning me, and I didn't know what it was at first.
Right. I used to watch them all. If you type it in, like, the channel's gone, but there is, you'll find it on the menu that one of the owners, one of the Briq Show brothers, he kind of has like a 30-minute, hey, here's what happened, and not to mention, it's kind of okay because we've been doing this for 5 or 7 years and we're kind of burned out anyway. But I think they did post, and not being accusatory, they're the ones that are saying this. They posted some images with like the Lego watermark of like,
right.
So. But I thought, it didn't seem like that's something you've ever done. So I'm surprised to hear that you have that strike on you.
Yeah, it's any image that they deem that's unnecessary, because it's like I said, they've gave me a strike before just for using an image of a box that has been out for years.
Gotcha.
So it's something that just, I guess, I don't know if it's something that actually goes through or if it's an algorithm goes through, but something sets it off.
Gotcha.
Right. Well, and Mark, you mentioned that you do photography. Do you do like film as well?
I just started getting into film. I was doing photography before, but ever since YouTube, I got really into it. I was like, okay, well, I want to do panning shots, and what is that kind of shot, and how about lighting? And so I got this kind of stuff really interests me as far as like cinematography, sound, how does the lighting work, the mood. So I've been getting more into that with video versus photography.
Yeah. I had a feeling, like, before we got on here, before you mentioned it, I had a feeling that you had some sort of background in creative, just from the production value, of course. And, the fact that you have the #1 recommended microphone for YouTubers, your lighting is fantastic. And yeah, I think there's a lot that we could learn from your set and everything like that. How has that evolved for you, like since you began, I guess? Have you, have you had to do a kind of a ton of trial and error to get those things right?
Yes. A lot of things didn't make sense to me at first. It's a little bit different than it is with photography. You think there'd be some carryover. There is. But the main thing is going to be, what I've noticed is sound. Like, that to me right now is the new thing I'm trying to learn. It's okay, how do I get great sound? To me, it's like, okay, it's a great image that I want to look at it now. But really, if it doesn't have good sound to me, then you kind of just feel like it's not a quality video. And that's the one thing I really do want to push, is I want to have like quality content, quality news, quality Lego, because I do love Lego, and I would like to have that kind of quality go through my channel.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So, the last thing I want to do is put you on the spot, Mark, but
let's do it.
You are my #1 rumor person on YouTube when it comes to Legos. Are there any videos coming up where you're going to be dropping more rumors, or do you know some information that we could look forward to in the next week or later in the month? Right
now, being honest, and it's unfortunate, it's kind of dry right now. It's
Right.
it's not much really going on. There's a few little things that have been hinted, but it's complete speculation, complete rumor. I have a few people that I kind of always turn to. I'll be like, hey, what do you think about me posting this? And they'll be like, I wouldn't. So I do want to have some kind of reputation where like I don't want to just say anything that's out there, but there's some rumors going around. I want to, but I haven't got the okay yet from a few of my sources, so I'm waiting on that.
Right. And we do have something I'm looking forward to. I'm pretty certain it's the last week of this month is LegoCon.
Yes.
I mean, that right there. And as soon as you announced it, I said, "Well, gosh, I wish we could fast forward a month from now to see what your commentary is going to be on it." I mean, we'll have our commentary from a reseller's perspective,
right?
But it sounds like, and this is, if I'm not mistaken, the first time they're actually doing something like this, right?
Right. That's what I've heard.
So I think in the future. There's already going to be buzz around this, but like the San Diego Comic-Con, I mean, they just drop stuff out of nowhere, and it's like this information overload, and you're buzzing for a week or two afterwards. I'm hoping it'll get to the point, for LegoCon, if not this year, but at least in the upcoming years. So I'm definitely looking forward to the download that they're going to be giving from that event.
Right. I'm really excited. I wanted to see the new content, and I want to see some of these new sets. They've been doing actually pretty well with some of these sets by keeping them under lock and key. They've surprised me a few times. So I'm really interested to see what new stuff they're going to come out with. And I know there's speculation of the new Star Wars set. And unfortunately, I don't know much about Star Wars. I'm just getting into it. So I'm willing to learn more.
Yeah, I think there's, I could be wrong. I saw that there's this one gentleman who's a huge Star Wars Lego fan on YouTube. He's a young gentleman, and he said, I think he said on one of his last videos that there's supposed to be like one big set announced, and everybody's waiting for that, and it may be announced on LegoCon. I would think that would be the perfect opportunity. You don't want to necessarily do it right before Q4 and have distractions of everything else Q4 related,
right?
Take from that marketplace of that piece of news. So,
yeah, Star Wars would mask and shadow anything else that would come out if they waited too long.
Right. Okay. So, what is how? Not to get too personal, but how many sets do you usually buy? Maybe a month, or is that a loaded question? Or I would say and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the good things is that you have a spouse that loves Lego too, so it's not necessarily
right.
It's not necessarily a talking point that you're trying to hide from your spouse. That seems like something that you could bond together. And my wife and I mean, we build stuff, not all the time, but we're actually do. But we do build stuff occasionally, and she'll break out the wine. But I was just curious when it comes to your seasonality of buying.
Well, sometimes I'll go through a few months where I don't buy anything, and then all of a sudden I'll be like a full haul. I'll drop maybe $1,000 or more in one day on some Lego. But it really depends on if they really come out with anything that excites me. And some days, like I said before, some months it's nothing.
Right.
And maybe that's some time for me to. And usually through that time, I kind of even look through eBay and try to find some old sets that I missed out on when I was not into Lego. And I just kind of look back and learn more about, there's that set from 2003 or a set from 2008 that I was missing.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. And then when you're doing your buying, Mark, do you, are you much of a deal hunter? Do you try and get the rock bottom prices?
Yes and no. So if it's a set that I 100% have to have, I click buy and I add it to the cart and I buy. Other sets I'll do my research on, and I'll try to find some either, Walmart has some great clearance sometimes. I do use and people make fun of me when I say this on my channel, but I do cashback websites all the time. So I'm like, okay, well, is Lego having a sale, Walmart? I'll use this website and I'll use the cashback from there, which Discover Card is having this. I'll try to stack any kind of savings I can because I know that Lego is expensive.
People make fun of you for this.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
they're like, oh, you're pushing these cashback websites and you get referral credits. I'm like, this is true, but it saves me a lot of money. But yeah,
So you're talking about savings. I was wondering if you had any opinion on the Lego VIP program. And I could be wrong. I think you may have mentioned it, you alluded to it in your video. I thought up until like a year or two ago, I really had no problem with the VIP program. I'm one of those ones, and I'll share it with people, and they'll say, no way, Lego used to do this, but there used to be at times, they had triple VIP points, right? It wasn't just double VIP points; they had triple VIP points, and now to access your VIP points, you have to go online. You have to, and I'm not saying it's difficult to do, but you just can't stroll into a Lego store and be like, hey, spontaneously, I think I'm going to buy this set, and by the way, I'm a VIP member. Like, you have to register. Or have authorization to, yeah. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that. I mean, it seems like it's a little bit more difficult to do it. I don't think they're doing it because they're trying to suppress VIP points. I'm sure maybe from a loss prevention standpoint, that might be the reason why they're doing it. But for me, it just seems a little bit more of a hassle.
it does seem that way. So this is like, Lego VIP is all new to me. So this is kind of like going through the process of learning how it worked throughout the year. Now, I've had it sometimes where they'll like say, okay, do you want to use VIP points in the store? And they've done something for me there. So I don't know what they did before where they allowed me to use points that I did not even register for or pull from.
Right.
But sometimes they're like, oh, sorry, but you have to do that online. So I get both sides. I don't know which is true or not, but I don't know. It just seems that now Lego is so popular and rightfully so right now that they've kind of just relaxed on it. They really don't have to care really about VIP right now. Just besides, okay, well, get the sets, early. And you're going to buy them anyway. They kind of have that. It kind of feels like they have that kind of mentality right now. I'm not going to fault them for it. They're really successful right now.
Right. Have you ever been in a position this year where you said to yourself, okay, I really want that set. I think I'm going to stand in line. For me, the one time I was going to do it was for the space shuttle, but I forgot. I recently went back to work, and I forgot that I had to work after a year off. So I was like, oh crap! And so I was disappointed. And actually, I haven't purchased it since because I'm like, I'm going to purchase it. I don't want it to be an impulse. But I was just wondering if there was a set that you've done it for, or a set that's coming out that you might do it for.
Oh, 100%. Luckily for me, there was no line when I went to go buy the space shuttle, but I went that day. So I went online and I bought a set 11 p.m. here Central in Texas. And then I went to the store 11 p.m. the next day and picked it up. But I just strolled right in. And so if there was a line, I would have been willing to wait.
Yeah, I went in a week later, and I was lamenting to the Lego employees how I couldn't be there for the day one, and they said there was like 45 people.
Oh wow!
And the mall is usually like a ghost town, so I was like, wow, 45 people in line for the Lego store. I mean, that's kind of a big deal.
And even so, it might be a little bit different here in Houston because I think we have 3 Lego stores in the area, so maybe that's why there wasn't a line. But also last year, I would say probably around when was the Super Nintendo set came out, there was a big line for that one, and I waited for that set. I mean, it was at least 60 people deep.
Yeah, if I'm off on that DeLorean when that comes out, and I should be because I write my own schedule, I'm definitely going to be in line for that. I mean, that is just. And I just can't. And I just want not to put you on the spot again, Mark. But I'm really looking forward to when you release the images. I have no doubt that you're going to be one of the first people that will do that. So I'm definitely looking forward to. Because here's the deal. I don't know what your thoughts were. Like when the first DeLorean came out, I mean, it was cool, but since it was kind of small, it just it wasn't 100% accurate.
Right.
And the minifigs were awesome. I mean, it would be amazing if there was like a Biff Tannen minifig this go around. And you know what? That's something. I mean, honestly, that's something that would be an amazing theme if they wanted to do, because they could have, you know, the 1950s. They could have 84. They could have the Western Back to the Future.
Right.
I mean, if you're talking about collectability and 80s nostalgia, I mean, you could have at least 3 different DeLoreans, right? And a train, a Back to the Future train.
And I don't know why they didn't do something similar to Ghostbusters. They do it with Batman. They include minifigs in those. I don't know why they're not including it in some of the creator experts.
Right.
So I'm going to pull up a question from the comments here. We have Harris, thoughts on the new Star Wars Summer Wave sets, and we can all take it. But starting with you, Mark, what are your thoughts on the new sets?
Like, again, I am not big into Star Wars, so I'm like the wrong person to ask. But everybody that I know that talks to me is like they love the new summer Star Wars sets. They're really hyped about them.
I would say for myself, the Slave One. I mean, I'm not a huge, you know, Star Wars fan when it comes to wanting to build things. I mean, I have the old R2D2. I got a couple TIE fighters in a box that when the day is right, I'm going to break them out. But, you know, similar to, you know, my favorite theme is Batman. You know, I plan on having a bunch of Batmobiles, a lineup mounted to my wall, and same thing with the Slave Ones. And I'm so happy that they have a Slave One, and you know, they had the economy, if you want to call it, the economy X-wing, the economy, you know, TIE fighter. It would have made sense to have that, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just saying, because if the Razor Crest is retiring, that, you know, that's kind of the flagship set for the Mandalorian, and, you know, you have Boba Fett and you know, coming up, that the next flagship set would be maybe a Slave One, or, you know, I'm trying to come up with what else could possibly take the position of the Slave One when it comes to the flagship set, and I'm having trouble coming up with that.
Yeah, well, so they've got the Moff Gideon's cruiser coming. I'm not sure the price point on that one though. Yeah, I'm seeing something like 160. So I guess that would be it. I agree though. I think like the Slave One looks great. I do think it's a little too soon with the 20th anniversary just retiring. I like the Vader's meditation chamber. I think that's like an iconic scene in the movies, obviously.
Love that.
Yeah, it's a cool scene to go after, even though it is a bit of a basic, like for display purposes, it's not incredible. But I don't think any of the summer sets are a match for what we had before the summer, which is the helmets and the R2D2. You know, that R2D2 build looks just incredible. It looks so good. Did you do that one, Mark? Did you build it?
I have bought it. I have not built it yet. I can't wait. Really trying to find the right time to build that one.
Yeah. That looks great. So Mark, how else do you, let me take this down actually. Thanks for your question, Harris. How else do you stay up to date? So like, it can't all be Instagram at this point, right? You're putting out like 4 or 5 videos a week at this point, right? you must have, are you on RSS feeds, like checking things daily, or, you know, how?
Yes. Yeah. I use Briq Fanatics, Eurobricks. I'm on like all the sites, and I just check constantly. And a lot of people, I'm really blessed to have a lot of people in the community that actually just reach out to me. I'll get messages and DMs. Hey, have you seen this? Have you looked at this? And then I go reach out. I'm really glad that they do that for me.
Yeah. And have you had to put work into that sort of building that network up, or did that kind of organically happen over time?
That kind of organically happened. I guess I do respond a lot through, and if you message me, I'll message you back. And so I've had a lot of these organic conversations, and these people were kind of helping me grow and let me learn about Lego. And they've been really nice and accepting and teach me things I didn't know about. And then they have their sources where they get information, and they're like, hey, make a video about this. And they just hand it to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the news aspect, or taking, you know, kind of centralizing your focus around releasing news and you know, commenting on news, it seems a little bit stressful sometimes, in that like you're going to have to just be so clued into things. Do you find that that's ever a little bit stressful, or is that one of the big challenges of getting to where you are?
I would say so. It's one of those things where you feel like if you're not first, literally it feels like you're last. You're kind of, especially with the YouTube algorithm, if you're not one of the first videos out, they're not pushing it. And so it's one of those things where you see some news, if you're not on it within a few minutes or pushing a video within an hour or two, you're going to be left behind. This one thing happened when my favorite holiday is Halloween, and I was out buying a few things for a Halloween party, and that's when the Ghostbusters set leaked, and I was like, dang it. Well, I have to hurry. I have to drop what I'm doing now. I have to hurry up and make a video. I'll be back in like 2 hours. So it's one of those kind of like stressful things.
Yeah, I know for us, you know, I guess fortunately we are not necessarily in the breaking news business. So you know, when the Ghostbusters set or something comes out, you know, I usually wait a week or two to give my commentary on from an investment perspective. But I've thought, like, you know, maybe we should do the breaking news stuff, and I'll do probably the same exact thing that you'll do. You know, you'll type in Ghostbusters Ecto 1 2021 in
Right.
the YouTube box, and you'll see, you know, the usual suspects, and I say that with fondness. You know, I can't think of all of their names, and I'm like, yep, there they go, and God bless them. You know, I'm happy that they're putting out that content, because I just don't have the time to do it.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
And you know, speaking of things, the I'm not sure. I think it happened today or maybe yesterday. I can't remember. That I think it was Instagram. I saw where the Lego typewriter has just been revealed or something like
Right.
that. What do you have any thoughts on it? So for me, when I saw the typewriter, you know, they announced the typewriter was coming out. I at first I was scratching my head. I'm like, okay, you know, I like oddity things, so I have an open mind. But when I saw it, I said to myself, I was like, I was hoping it would be a little bit more antique looking.
God, I see what you're saying.
So
The
I
style,
wasn't
yeah.
sure what your thoughts were on that.
I actually don't mind it. It's not going to be a day one purchase for me. It's not going to be one of the ones like, oh, I'm going to reach out. I think it's very unique. It's interesting that they picked it. I'm actually a fan of it to have it. If I had room, then it's one of those sets that I would pick up. But it's going to be only if I have room. I really don't like the price. If the price would go down a little bit, or if I had VIP points, I literally could not find a set that I wanted more, then I would reach out and get it. But I think it's unique. I like that they build sets like that still.
Yeah.
But that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I just don't think I'm going to be one of those people standing in line
No,
at 7 in the morning.
no, I won't be standing in line for the typewriter.
Now, you know, going back to the breaking news that you do occasionally, that, and I believe I'm certain you know more about than I do, the Lego Ideas program, where they're like cranking out 5,000 sets for, is it 20 or 25 different sets, or is it more, or is it 40?
It might be 30. I believe it's 30 sets, but I know they've actually I think I need to double check that. I'm maybe getting confused with the whole Briq link, them taking Ideas sets that have not passed. But yeah, Lego Ideas, and the last one was over 35 sets. I think it was like 50 sets that went through.
Right.
Yes.
It's out of control, right?
It's one of those things where I kind of go back and forth to decide, like, is it getting too hyped where it's too easy, where so many people are voting that it's just anybody that's popular goes through, or if it's influenced by social media, are they really, really good sets? Is this what people really want, or is this just like mass hysteria? For me, I think they should, raise the threshold of number of votes. Sometimes too much choice is a bad thing, and you kind of just feel disappointed overall, versus if there's only 10 sets, 8 sets you looked into, you're not going to be that disappointed in. But there's 50 sets, 35 sets you're looking at. You're kind of like, you find your favorites, and then most likely, there's no chance that those are going to be picked. So I think they should raise the threshold of how many votes.
Right. So for me, and of course this is just my opinion. So I would prefer so I'll give an example. The Wally set, right? The gentleman that did the Wally set. And that was a set that I wanted to go huge on, but there was an issue with the neck, and you had to call Lego and they would give you a piece or one or two extra pieces because there were a lot of complaints about the neck and the head being too heavy for it. So I think the person that submitted that, he was a gentleman that worked at Pixar, and of course the people that did the Saturn V. I could be wrong. I think one of them had like some NASA ties, and all of that is great. I love that. We wouldn't have those sets if it weren't for those. But I'm always excited about the one person that has been in his basement or a log cabin for decades, and he's like he has nothing but like Lego plans that he's drawn on like parchment paper or something like that that's like wallpapered all over his house, and then 30 years later he opens his door and there's this beam of light. Yeah, I mean those are the sets that personally for me I'm huge fans of.
What would be your example of the last set that you really admired, Lego ideas wise?
That's a great question. I mean, right now I'm looking at the blacksmith set.
Okay.
I would probably say that. So here's the deal: the Space Shuttle Atlantis, amazing. Like I'm not even. And honestly, I think the reason why I haven't got out and bought it is because if I were to buy it tomorrow, I would get a hotel room for like 3 days and not talk to my wife and kids and just be doing that. So there's a reason why I haven't bought it. But that's expected. You're going to have space, and they're all going to be beautiful sets, right? But something like the blacksmith set, I like that a lot because for me, when it comes to the module sets and folks, I hear your emails and DMs. If you love the module sets, God bless. That's great. For me, they seem, cookie cutter, kind of like you're like, okay, there's, a corporate designer to this and they're doing their jobs and that's great. But the blacksmith set, that to me looks like somebody that, there were some college kids that put it together or something like that. It just seems so organic and the colors are so, and, Mark, I'm not sure you probably have seen or been a part of all these Facebook groups where they're mock Lego set groups. And let me tell you, these are not people that are just, putting together a typewriter or something like that.
Right.
These are people, we're talking like beautiful rolling mountains. And these are, there was a gentleman, I don't even remember his name. He did a mock of a scene from a 007 movie or something like that many months ago, and I'm just starstruck.
Yeah.
I'm like these are the sets that I would spend top dollar on. Like I would say, okay, Rackatoon, I'll catch you next time. Because I want to, I want the people that did this to make as much money as possible,
right?
Because they've labored over it, they've slaved over it. They don't have, I'm not trying to be insulting by any means. I'm sure these sets aren't easy to make, but they don't have as the tools and resources as the Lego group or something like that. Right. You see some Lego sets where there's like some hills or mountains and things of that sort, and you're like, okay, that's great. And then you see this mock where it's just like detailed 10 times more, and you're like, this is amazing. Like I would want this on my mantle.
Right.
So it's those things are just beautiful to me.
And I would be 100% willing to buy those sets too. I just wish that like somehow, and I know it's not possible. It's they have to reach a mass market, but I would find some way through like BriqLink to have those kind of sets be available to purchase or fund those sets. I would absolutely love it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think some of the designs for ideas have just been fantastic. We always like we get a barrage of amazing idea sets each year, and dino fossils, for example. I love the dinosaur fossil set, but one that really stood out to me the last couple of years was the old fishing store that we had about 3 years ago. That was an absolutely beautiful set, and I think the reason I like the medieval blacksmith so much is because it reminds me of old fishing store. And kind of on a similar note, we have Hillian's Bricks in the comments. Check out his YouTube channel, everyone, as well. It's great. A lot of really good content on BriqLink and Parting Out. What do you guys think about the sets on the BriqLink designer program? So similar to what we were just talking about, that are coming up for crowdfunding. I personally, there's one in that list that's a modular building site or construction site for a Lego city, right? So people, like, you have your modular buildings and then you put a construction site with a big crane. I think that was such a genius idea. That like every Lego, and that's the tagline, is something like every Lego city needs a construction site or a building site. It's like, wow, that is so thinking outside the box, to get your stuff, ahead of the crowd. And there are, I think, better looking sets in the lineup, but that one just stood out to me as total genius. So that gets my vote for sure. Do you guys remember any of the sets or anything stand out to you offhand?
I want to take a look right now. I remember there was a lot of castles when I was doing the review.
Right.
One thing that did stick out to me.
I've got the link right here. I'll put it in the chat for anyone who wants to look at it. There's a kind of a lineup on that page. Got some really cool stuff there. There's one, the sheriff's safe with combination lock. It's just a straight up safe, similar to the typewriter set.
I remember that one.
Yeah, just don't know where you'd put that. Like, it's the same. Like, when I look at the typewriter set, I just don't know where I'd put it. Like, it belongs on its own little table in an office, but who's going to do that? Same thing with the safe. Yeah, there's some interesting sets there.
All of it is really good stuff, but I'm looking at it right now. The observatory. I mean, I could be wrong. I think I've seen an observatory on Lego Ideas for like the longest time.
I think we lost you.
In that 50s diner, I mean, forget about it, right? I mean, we're talking about, pretty much quitting our job and building Legos full time, which isn't going to produce any food on the table for us. But I mean, and here's the deal. I mean, I'm so happy that I wish they did it. They did this decades ago, but I'm so happy they're doing it now.
Right. I think it's a great concept. I'm glad people were complaining that the Lego idea sets that they wanted are not going through, and BriqLink, picked up the slack. They kind of like, well, them and Lego are one. I think it was a genius move.
Yeah, we've got another comment about the designer program as well. Can't wait to get Castle in the Forest. Yeah, that's a great looking set as well.
That's the one I remember, Castle in the Forest. I think it starts July 1st, right?
Yeah, that's coming up, my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, and the dive shop. I mean, the dive shop right next to the fishing store. I mean, in the Temple of Hermit. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, so I apologize. I mean, I've said it, ad nauseum. I love anything Asian themed. So the Temple of Hermit. I mean, gonna have to have another conversation with the wife and break out that emergency credit card again. So.
Wow.
I'm trying to remember. I want to know how much that's going to be. The bidding in there. I just want to know.
I mean, these things are going to be so exclusive because there's such a limited number. It's like I see, like, if you want this Lego set, and you've been putting it, on Craigslist. Hey, I'm looking for this set. You're going to be on the bus one day. Someone's going to pass you a note, and it's going to say, "Hey, you want this set? You need to go down this alley and find the gentleman holding the Rubik's cube with the brown trench coat, and he'll have that set that you need."
Paper bag sack.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think, and you would recommend if someone wants these sets for, investment wise, would you not?
I mean, I would. I'm a little bit hesitant to absolutely say yes, because here's the thing, it's a little bit different, because there's people that, for example, there's a couple sets right now on LegoShopAtHome.com that people could get, and they just don't know about it because they just don't know about Lego Shop at Home, and so they'll go on Amazon and pay a premium for it. So it's one of those things where, if there's an Ecto 1 coming out or a DeLorean, there's going to be a lot of fanfare, right? There may be some fanfare when it comes to maybe a licensed set, but I just don't see that going into the designer program. So, I almost feel like you need to be a little bit of a connoisseur of Lego, not just like, hey, I just like Star Wars Lego. And this is, it's one thing to purchase, and I'd love to hear your feedback, Shane. It's one thing to purchase a set from the 80s that you loved when you were a kid, but it's another thing to, be centered in the designer program and have that be your number one thing.
I agree, and I think we actually just talked about this in one of our most recent blog posts around what drives demand on some of the Lego themes. And obviously the licensed themes is very easy to see where the demand is coming from. You've got fans of that license, even fans who don't usually buy Lego. Right now, Friends TV show, people all around the world are buying that apartment set, or the Central Park set had a ton of fanfare when it was released. Obviously, the Winnie the Pooh, the Ghostbusters, all of these different beloved shows, movies, video games, whatever it is, are going to bring people who don't usually buy Lego into the Lego world. But the thing is, it's not only licensed sets that can do that. You can also have something like Lego architecture, which it's bringing people into the Lego world as well for different reasons, right? You could have conventions in Vegas buying up the Las Vegas skyline to give to the guests, right? You could have architecture students building the Guggenheim as part of their class. There's all of these different reasons why people are driving to Lego, and each theme has different drivers of that demand. But when you look at something like the designer program, that demand, it's not going to exist for like that. Those same indicators are not going to exist. So demand is going to be a lot lower. It's not going to be showing up on places like Amazon. It's not going to be showing up in retail stores, so people won't be searching for them, when they are walking around Target. You've literally just got fans of Lego who are aware of Bricklink and aware of the program. And with that lower demand, you do have a lot lower supply. So that's why I think Jim was kind of saying, like, maybe they could do well, because the supply will be so limited, but the demand is going to be hard to find, I think, in 5 years' time when everybody's forgotten about it.
So what do you guys think, though, about as far as like the year 2020 is concerned for Lego sets and investing? Do you believe in a 15-20 year span that these sets will be worth more or less than typical?
From the designer program?
No, not from the designer, just regular Lego sets from 2020. Because of the whole year, the whole hype, do you think that because there's so much hype, there's more kids playing, and then within 20-year time span, they're going to be trying to collect these sets again? Or do you think there was just too much?
Well, that's an interesting question, right? Because I think that's something that, my opinion is, I think we've been in 1.0 of Lego investing for 10, 15 years right now. There's really not, this really is, the younger boomers and the Gen X's that are doing this. So it'll be interesting to see, what the 50-year-old millennial will do.
Right.
Because right now, you know, I've always advocated, with the exception of maybe the 1985 space shuttle, that I've said, you really don't want to hold on to your sets for a long time. Like
Okay.
you really want it to be 2 to 3 years. But things change, and it's such a good question, Mark, because I could see that, with eventually there's going to be a 2.0 generation of reselling, where those people that are younger now, that are just getting out of Lego because they're going to college or whatever.
Right.
It'll be really interesting, and they'll have more money too. I mean, it's one thing for Gen X kids, adults, to have money, but it's you have YouTubers that are millennials, and they're millionaires, and,
Right. True.
and so it'll be very interesting to see that. I mean, so who knows? I think that's an answer that has yet to be determined, but
Right.
it'll be exciting, because when it comes to the reselling world, I've always said, you need to pivot every year. I'm changing or tweaking my business model a little bit. 15 years ago, if The Simpsons house came out 15 years ago, which it didn't, it's I think it's only been 5. You're guaranteed you're going to at least make between 150 to 200% return on investment. Within 12 months of it retiring. Not necessarily the case for these $200 sets now, right? I mean, I'm just going to say this, and I've been I've been keeping this close to the chest, and not sharing this with the public YouTube channel, but I did a video on my worst and my best return on investments of 2020, and my 3 best return on investments, they all had many things in common. They were all under $20 when I purchased them, and they were all geared towards a younger age group. Okay. So it'll be folks, you need to write that down, because I've been keeping that close to the chest for a long time. So so it'll be interesting to see what the future brings.
Yeah, I think they will do quite well 2020 retiring sets, mostly because of the production shortages that we had last year. And it was a perfect storm, right? You had cases where the Lego group couldn't keep up in terms of their production for obvious reasons, right? You had factories shutting down, and then you had such a surge in demand that was just kind of unheard of, that they couldn't plan for. And what we ended up seeing was some sets that retired, like, not only did they have kind of less time on the shelves, but they also were, like, a lot of the time out of stock, right? They were for entire 4 months out of last year. I'd say some of these sets were completely unavailable, that you couldn't find anywhere. And then by the end of the year, they were gone. So, like, something like the Steamboat Willie set pops to my mind, right? Which kind of dried up quickly. And it's the kind of thing where in those last couple of months before retirement, people are trying to find it. You can't find it. The demand, or the excitement's there, the demand is there. I think that some of them, I can't prove this, but I think that some of them were underproduced as a result. And the supply that will be out there in the aftermarket will be affected. I think we're going to see that when we start to look at the data over the next couple of months, and we start to look at the supply on some of these sets as we start to sell them. We'll start to see how many people are out there with them. What's the stock on the aftermarket like? And I think that we're going to see less stock on a lot of the 2020 retired sets than previous years, and than what we'll see in 2021. And as a result, obviously, we'll have appreciation will be higher.
Thank you for that.
It's also interesting too, because the Treehouse set, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was supposed to retire last year. I mean, I'm pretty certain, like, Lego confirmed that, and then they pulled it back. So, it's interesting what Lego does whenever certain things happen. Like I know a few years ago when they were reorganizing, right? Like, there were some sets that were supposed to retire, and I noticed they didn't. And my only guess is that, when they had new leadership or they were trying to kind of see what was going right, they would say to themselves, why are we retiring these sets that are doing so well?
Right. Money wise, yeah. Why is that makes no sense.
Right.
Yeah, I think that caught everyone off guard with some of those re-releases they did last year.
So the re-release, I know that they kept postponing the Lego Ideas Treehouse, but then bringing back the Saturn V and the Ship in the Bottle. Do you think you see that going forward? Then bringing sets back?
I mean, for me personally, I this was a prediction that I made. I believe that this is not a one-time thing. It's one thing if they didn't do Ship in the Bottle, I would say, okay, the Saturn V rocket, it's kind of a one-time thing. But I would not be surprised if, and I could be wrong, I think they said that there's a retirement date for the Saturn V rocket, or there's rumors at least that the
should
Saturn
be ending this year, both of those.
Right. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just floated these two as like an experiment, and depending on how well the experiment went, as we approach Q4, because that's when they re-released them, right before Q4.
That's right.
There's going to be 3 or 4. If they do it again, I don't think it's going to be 2. I think it's honestly, I think it's going to be between 3 to 5 sets.
Oh wow.
And they may, and I'm just spitballing here, I don't know any information, but they may brand it as, it's hard to put Ship in a Bottle and Saturn V rocket in a theme together, but it could be Lego favorites or something like that, where they'll do research, because the Treehouse, there was there was this one channel, and they talked about it, how they made a prediction how the Treehouse is something that they think will be reproduced in a couple years, and I agree 110% with it. So if you have that Treehouse 2 years after it's retired, and you have a decent ROI, you may want to get rid of it.
It actually happened for me with the Saturn V. I bought a few of them, and I was going to give them away as gifts, and my nephews didn't want them. So I was like, well, needed some room. So I sold them, and I was surprised how much over what I paid for them they were going for. And then luckily right after I sold them, that's when they re-released them.
Yeah, I had 70 Saturn V rockets, and
I had 3.
and 70 is kind of usually a small number for me, but I was, and I kept on waiting, because I said to myself, the price isn't right, and then I was like, okay, at 265, have a nice day. And let me tell you, they announced like a month later, they announced that, and I think I sold all but one. And let me tell you, when I was waiting for my bi-monthly reports, I was like, oh, I'm going to get some returns. And I didn't get any returns. So talk about dodging a bullet.
Wow.
Now, the funny thing is, I got rid of all my capitals in Q4, and I had some I had some capital returns, right? And not going to talk about what happened on January 6th, but before January 6th, that set was going for 200. After January 6th, that set was going for 250. So those sets that returned, that I sold to those customers that returned them for 200, a few weeks later they were going back out the door for 250. So it is what it is.
Wow.
So funny how that can happen. Some event can happen that can suddenly everyone just runs for a certain Lego set that's been retired, and you can suddenly have these jumps. Over a couple of weeks, it went from 200 to 250 to get the US Capital architecture set. And we have a comment that's kind of along the same vein that we're talking right now from Alan. I don't think anyone can predict re-releases. There was some chatter in the comments there about the Legoland sets. People like asking, do you think that the Legoland sets will be re-released? Do kids these days appreciate the simplicity of classic sets? Doubt it. So I guess the point really is that they're only going to re-release sets that obviously are going to see renewed demand for those sets, and sets that are selling super well. And I think that's why we saw Saturn V, and that's why we saw Ship in the Bottle. I was caught with the Ship in the Bottle. I went deep on that one. And, I think at the end of the day, and we talked about this in the Facebook group as well, like when it happened, all we can really do as Lego investors when those re-releases happen, which, they may happen again, is just turn your attention to, another set to buy, right? Like, it's at the end of the day, like, it's the same as if you're investing in stocks or another investment vehicle. This is why we diversify a little bit, right? This is why we buy, more than one thing, so that you're not caught with all of your wealth in a set that gets re-released. And I think secondly, this is why we don't really hold sets for 5 to 10 years, because you're opening yourself up to more of that, especially if you're a Star Wars set buyer or a Harry Potter set buyer, right? With Harry Potter, we've seen the Night Bus, we've seen the Hogwarts Express, we've seen variations of the Great Hall, and Star Wars, we're seeing re-releases, in different variants like every year, right? So, waiting 5 years to sell, you could open yourself up a little bit more to some of those things.
Do you find that it's more if it's a licensed set that has a probability of making like re-releases?
Well, interestingly, it depends on the license, because some of them, it's more the opposite. With some licenses, it's kind of like, well, okay, when this is done, I think it's done, and not only will the set be done, but maybe the whole theme will be done. Right. Like, I wish I was investing in Lego when the Lord of the Rings stuff, some of it didn't do very well actually, but I still, I would have had a degree of confidence in that theme. With Harry Potter, it's a little bit different because it's been re-released 3 times, or it's come. There's different waves have come 3 times over the last 20 years, and Star Wars is an evergreen license. But some of them, Jurassic World, for example, I don't think there will be re-releases, because there's so many different ideas and different kind of scenes from those movies that they can go with. Maybe we will get a re-release of like the Gate with the T-Rex or something like that, because it's an iconic set, but in that range. But the other Jurassic World sets, I find hard to believe there would be re-releases for. So I think it depends on the theme. Jim, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so and with the licensing, I mean that's a whole new machine animal in itself, right? Because I mean, there was some movie that was released. It escapes me where they did it was the Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Okay. So they had that Pirates of the Caribbean movie come out, the last one, and I said to myself, okay, they had licensed sets for that. What are they going to do for this one? And I said to myself, I don't expect another Queen Mary. Is that what it's called? I can't remember. But they did have a ship, right? So, okay. I said I just don't see them re-releasing it or doing a 2.0 version. And I, not that I don't wish they did. I mean, I think the Black Pearl. I'm sorry, the Queen Mary, but Pirates of the Caribbean on a Carnival cruise or something, but with Kathy Lee Gifford. But
there is a Queen Mary as well.
Is it? So the Queen Mary. Sorry, I'm not a huge Pirates of the Caribbean fan. It is what it is. But so I was like, why didn't they release it then? Or so I almost, and I can only speculate. I would think that when it comes to re-releasing licensed sets, that there might be too much rigmarole when it comes to that, versus, hey, let's call up that one dude at NASA and who did the Lego Idea set and make him an offer that we're going to re-release it, and it's kind of easy to convince one guy versus Warner Brothers or whoever. I mean, these are just my thoughts. So
yeah. Hey, Mark, I had a question that I wanted to ask you, and this was a video that you made a while back, and it was the Diagon Alley build that you did, like every piece in 10 minutes. How long did that take you to make? It was such an amazing idea for you.
About 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah. 7 days, because each shot was you have to take a photo, and then the lighting would be different sometimes, and you have to move lighting, and then the batteries would die. I didn't have a plug-in that would give my camera consistent power, so it would die within an hour. So then I'd have to plug in the battery, wait for that to charge up, and then start shooting again. Yeah, that's why I kind of stay away from those videos now. It takes so long, and it's a hit or miss. Some people want to watch them, some people don't, and so it's so much time involved in those.
Yeah. For anyone who hasn't seen it, go check that out. It's essentially stock kind of image, or stop motion of the Diagon Alley set being built and each piece kind of appearing. It was really cool. I really enjoyed it. But first thought in my mind was, wow, like that from production standpoint.
Yeah,
that took a while.
It definitely is not fun doing those things. It's one of those. It's very tedious. I truly just enjoy build. I wish I would just like put on Harry Potter and build that set. I would take it back. I would do that again. But it's afterwards, and you kind of like look at the film. You're like, okay, well, it's done now. I'm proud of it. That's fun, but I would never go do that again.
Right.
Yeah. And so you mentioned as well, like that, when a news story breaks or something pops and you want to make a video about it, you want to get it out as fast as possible. And so how does that process look for you? Are you set up to, just hit film in 5 minutes notice?
Yeah.
You kind of running in and just getting going?
I have a camera slider. I come in, I turn on the lights, program the camera to move, so that takes a little bit of time. I program what I want the camera to move when I'm talking, and then I kind of go through a little bit of a script of what I'm going to say. The longest part, so actually shooting the video doesn't take very long. It's the processing, because I do shoot in 4K, and so it takes a long time for the computer to process and then edit and then get uploaded. So unfortunately, that's why sometimes I'm not first, but I do like to have certain kind of look and quality when I release the videos, but that does take some time.
Yeah. And do you have some sort of threshold on what's kind of warrants a video or what's important enough to bring a video? Or are you at this point, you kind of like any sort of Lego news is good enough?
Right. Before it used to be that way. And if I heard something, I would post it. But when I found out some rumors were wrong and people were complaining, like, hey, you told me this and I really, put my heart into this. Yeah, I kind of felt bad by just throwing anything that I heard. So now I kind of go through the people that I've trusted that have given me really good information. And hey, should I post this? Do you think what's the probability of this being correct? And if they say, hey, yeah, go ahead, the video gets made. If they say I would hold off, then I hold off.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And then kind of along the same line of the YouTube channel, what have you, I guess, enjoyed the most about the Briq Foundation journey and kind of getting to this point? It's been a wild ride, I imagine, right? You're 16K subs right now after a year. Around being a YouTuber now, right? Quite suddenly, and also focusing on Lego. What have you loved about the journey?
It really is. It's going to be the community, my subscribers, communicating with them. I love to see the feedback. It's one of these, they always say, don't read the comments. Sometimes that's true, but I love reading the comments and communicating with these people on Instagram or however they like to communicate with me. They've given me gifts. They've told me knowledge. I can't, that's the most fun, is just getting all that feedback, having friendships, making relationships with these people that could be thousands of miles away, and they treat you like they're like your brother or friend. I love it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it really is. Wasn't something I was expecting when I was doing this.
Yeah, I think the Lego community in general, it's so vast. There's so many different corners to it, and exploring that has been a ton of fun.
How long have you guys been doing the YouTube channel?
Well, we relaunched it, so I don't think we've ever publicly shared this story. So I had this YouTube channel. I think I started in 2016. I can't remember, and the production quality, I don't think was the greatest. And honestly, in hindsight, this was not the best approach. There were times where people would comment about my audio and video, and they're like, "Hey, man, we can't understand what you're saying, or we can understand what you're saying, but you should try this." And I'd be like, well, if you listen to me, you're going to make money, so it is what it is. Right. And which was true because I met a lot of people reached out to me back in 2016, and that's why I started it. It was because I wanted to meet other resellers, not just on a forum.
Right.
But I wanted to chat with them and video chat with them, and then I just stopped making it, and I would get emails occasionally that said, "Hey, you need to do this, you need to do that." And I'm like, well, maybe one day I'll do it. And honestly, I said to myself, I'm just saying that to them. I have zero intention to do it again. And Shane and I linked up, and we would have Skype chats or whatever, before Zoom was a thing. And I sent him a spreadsheet one time. I think it was a Brickhead spreadsheet. It was, every Brickhead's made and what the return on investment was. And he said, do you want to start a blog and start up your YouTube channel again? He said, I'll do the behind the scenes stuff. And, I was on medical leave and I really wasn't doing anything else. Other than just hanging out in my garage on a lawn chair watching people go by with masks. And I said, sure, let's go ahead and do it. And so that's how it started. And I think we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary of our blog, which is awesome. Great. And, it's been cool. It's cool to see the people that I only knew on the comment piece of YouTube, return and be like, hey, I remember you from, as one of your first subscribers. And here's the thing, like, I really didn't even pay attention to how many subscribers I had, because I wasn't trying to promote it. I mean, we're promoting it now, but I wanted, I didn't have anything Lego. I mean, it was called FBA Millionaire. It wasn't called Brickbucks. And I in those old videos, I said, I'm just trying to be low key about it. And, now that I'm more open about it, it's, meeting everybody is great. I mean, I've talked to people. I've had video Skype calls at 5 a.m. to, accommodate people in London. So,
wow.
And I'm doing, I'm doing a Patreon group chat this Sunday at 5 a.m. for all of our friends, for all of our Patreon members in Europe, because, they can't participate in the ones at 9 p.m. on Wednesdays. So,
Yeah, it's coming up on a year now. It'll be 1st of July, right? I think we put our first stuff out there last year. Yeah, Mark, I found this obscure YouTube channel a couple of years ago, and I was like, the videos were called something that didn't even mention Lego. The video would be something like Briq Update, right? Briq Update, and the date and today's date or whatever. And I don't know how I happened upon it, and then I started learning about some of this stuff, and I kind of thought to myself, like, why are people not talking about this, right? Why is there not a lot more, I guess, understanding and knowledge out there about what Lego can do in the aftermarket? And, obviously we hear about it with a lot of other assets, or I say assets, but kind of like alternative investments, right? Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, like sports cards, stuff like that. But I think Lego doesn't get the same airtime, even though it is, I think there's less of a barrier to entry. It's not that difficult to get started in. And so I kind of just started seeing this gap, and I just asked Jim, like, why did you stop? You should have never stopped. So, and now I think we've seen the proof of it, right? In the last year, the community that we built on Facebook and stuff like that, I think the interest is there, and it's been a lot of fun. I agree with Jim though, that the talking to people is my favorite part as well. And that
I have a question for y'all. Do you ever feel that you guys get pushback for the term like reseller?
Yeah.
So I'll go first. And actually, Mark, such a great question again, because here's the deal. I've talked about this in a couple of videos where I, for lack of a better term, want to be an ethical reseller, right? I'm not going to be that person that barges into a Target or a Barnes and Noble as soon as the door is unlocked and buy up all the Hatchimals, right? And deprive some kid of a Christmas present. I'm just not going to do that. And people could talk about capitalism and all that other stuff, and that's fine. You have your opinion. I have my opinion. I like to point out that, and I've used this example occasionally, the New York City skyline set. You could go into a Barnes & Noble, a Target, maybe even a Walmart, and that's a set that's been out for years. Okay, so you've had that opportunity to purchase that. I haven't been stopping you from purchasing that. I mean, I'm not going to. First off, the last thing I am going to do is criticize any person, no matter what they're doing, whether it's reselling or whatever, if it means they're putting, food on the table for their family. That's it. Now, people laugh at me when I say this, but I almost feel, I'm not trying to be virtuous when I say this, because I understand why people are laughing at me, but in a sense, we are doing a service to the community. There are people that are wanting to purchase a Louvre for $100 that they couldn't get, unless there were resellers like us. Now, I think that when it comes to the price gougers out there, if someone wants to put the Louvre on Amazon for $500, good luck with that, right? But I believe that there's really nothing wrong with what we're doing, but because of the people that barge into stores and grab all the Hatchimals and take the last Christmas gift off of a shelf, I think rightfully so that I understand why there's a bad connotation to that. But at the same time, there are people that will say, hey, I don't like these people throwing their affiliate links around. And I'm saying to myself, well, guess what? You sell Legos, okay? Now, what are you trying to do? You're trying to profit, which there's nothing wrong. When you go to work, you're trying to profit. There's nothing wrong with that. Nope. So if you don't want to participate, don't participate it. But for yourself, Mark, you're talking about that 1980 space shuttle, right? I mean, if there wasn't, and it was in sealed condition, right. So it could have been that it was in little Billy's closet for right. decades, or it could have been a reseller or something like that. So there are times that I get it a lot, and I don't say it to them because I'm not trying to get into an argument or anything like that, but I just think that there's a lot of jealousy involved whenever they come at us with that tone. Now, rightfully so, if you're going to take away some child's Christmas gift, and I've often said this, because here's a deal. I give this example, and I'm sorry this is a long answer. I'm sitting at work one time, and I'm getting a text on my phone. You need to go to Barnes & Noble's. They're having this sale. I mean, everything's like 60% off on certain sets. I'm like, okay, so Barnes & Noble's a quarter mile down from where I work. I go there, and I'm just looking at these sets, and I see this woman. She's scooping all these sets that I have on my phone, right? And I see her going down the list. And the last thing I'm going to do is say, hey, I was standing here first. If she wanted the Winter Village Friends, or I don't know what they called it, it's like the winter themed Friends sets, God bless. I'm not going to get it your way. But so, Shane, I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, we definitely do. Like, anyone who's in reselling in general, whatever it is that you're selling is going to get it. I think some people get away with it a little bit more if you're reselling something that, let's say, if you're reselling cars, right? You're just a car salesman, right? Like, you're not. They don't call you a reseller. But if you're reselling toys, you know, it's seen a little bit differently. And I think my personal stance on it is that resellers are not doing anything different than retailers are doing, right? Retailers are buying it from a distributor, and then they're increasing the price, and then they're selling it. We are just one step higher, but we're doing the exact same thing. We're buying it from a supplier. It just happens that that supplier is the retailer in our case as resellers. And then, you know, we're selling it to the buyer, or the end buyer, who is paying a willing price, right?
Yeah, willingly, right.
Yeah, exactly. And the difference is, you know, is this whole idea of retirement, right? The set is on the shelf for a certain period of time. After that period of time, then, you know, the demand or the supply is no longer there. And so you have cases where the price goes up naturally because the lack of supply. But the reason it goes up is because the demand is still there, and that demand could not be met if it wasn't for resellers, right? And so it's kind of like, I see it like two markets. You have when it's being manufactured, you have the retailers that are buying it and increasing the price and selling it. And then when it's not on the shelves anymore, the resellers are increasing the price and selling it, right? So it's the same thing. It's just another cycle of the same thing. And it's happening when the set is not being manufactured anymore. So buyers who really want it, they wouldn't be able to get it otherwise. So yeah, I honestly don't think there's anything wrong. There are different, there's different levels to it and tiers to it, like Jim mentioned, with like if you're, you know, I don't know, like if you're trying to corner a market and you're trying to buy up every single R2D2, you can, you know, and you're texting 1,000 people and telling them to all buy the same set, and, you know, basically just kill all the supply in a city. And like if you're doing anything shady like that, that is different. I think, you know, at that point you are like, you know, you take to Jim's point, you are taking it away from people who are trying to find it and, you know, fans of Lego. But again, to Jim's point, like if you're just buying something over the course of its lifespan and then holding it, and then when it's no longer available on the shelves, you're selling it for a higher price. I genuinely, I believe that you're not only are you not doing anything wrong, or you're acting just like another retailer, I think that you're also actually providing a service. So that's my perspective on it. But we definitely do that word. I think that word reseller is just a dirty word to some people. Some ways that I've liked to get around it is by talking about it without using the word reseller. So I've mentioned this a couple of times, so some people are sick of me mentioning this, but we do books as well. Like I sell books. And instead, if I'm out trying to buy some books to resell, I don't say I'm a book reseller. I say I have a bookstore, or I have an online bookstore, and it sounds so much better. It's the same thing, right? I have a used books. I have an online used bookstore, and people are like, "Oh, that's cool. Like books are great," you know. Versus I'm a book flipper, right? I flip books, and then immediately you get people looking at you funny, right? Like, you know, get out. It's the same thing with Lego. So if anyone who's watching here has that, and you're afraid of telling people that you're a Lego seller, just, you know, change the word reseller to something else. Like I have it. I do e-commerce. I sell toys, and that, which is true, right? You're not making things up. It's true. You're just kind of, you're flipping the script a little bit.
So I'm just putting smiles on kids' faces.
Yeah. I was wondering, the reason why I asked is because there was a video where I bought 2 sets, and I got so much in the comments like, "Why would you buy 2 sets? You don't need 2 sets." And I was like, if I get it that bad, sometimes, like, I couldn't imagine if I was just out there like, "Oh yeah, I'm a reseller." So I'm just wondering how it was from your perspective. You guys get, you know, that kind of level of feedback?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because like there's multiple very different markets, or audiences, I should say, for Lego content that we could be reaching with our stuff, right? One video we put out could be exclusively about reselling stuff, right? It could be like how to sell on Amazon. And we might have non-Lego people viewing that video. It could be someone who sells something else. Video game resellers could be interested in learning how to sell on Amazon. But then we could make another one that's like, here's the new Lego Friends set that's coming out. That's very just Lego focused and not reselling focused at all. And then we usually try to land somewhere in the middle, which is it's Lego content and it's reselling and investing content. Thankfully, I think what's happened is our audience, the people that watch our videos, they come into it usually knowing that it's about reselling and investing, and they're ready for that. And so like the thumbnails with have big dollar signs and like you're going to make money and all the sort of stuff that we don't try to market it so much as Lego content, so that we get more Lego fans who are not resellers.
Gotcha.
So the audience is generally used to it. But I think for your channel, your audience, so many of them are just Lego based fans, and if they came to our channel, they probably wouldn't like it very much. I think.
They just need to be open-minded.
Right.
That's it. Cool. Jim, do you have anything else? Will we start to close out?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything else. The only other thing I was just going to mention, and we left this topic, and I just had a comment real quick about it, was, this designer program, something that I'm curious about is what the boxes are going to look like.
Yes.
Because
box art, yes.
Yeah, because is it going to be, and this was announced a while ago, so I forget every single thing that I read up on, but I believe that the box art will be, it won't necessarily be a generic, box where it's like white, but the front is colored with box art. Like I was told from somebody online, not implying that that's inside information or anything like that, but it should be, just like all the other Lego sets, they wouldn't skip out on it. There should probably be some sort of tag where it'll say, designer program. So, but still, my curiosity is going to be there until we see what the boxes look like, and that's just around the corner. So when LegoCon comes out, they may talk more about that. I would think that would be something that they would talk about, but that's really the only comment that I have, other than, I look forward to watching more content from Briq Foundation, because when I reached out to you a while back and I was like, hey, do you think you could be a guest? And you're like, well, I'm going on vacation. My first thought wasn't, that's unfortunate, we'll have to do it a few weeks from now. My first thought was, oh, that's unfortunate, I'm not going to be able to see his videos because he's on vacation. So I'm definitely looking forward to more of your videos in the future, and any breaking news that you're able to share with all the viewers. I mean, my eyes are going to be glued, just like everybody else's.
Thank you so much for that. That really does mean a lot.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And Marc, I guess the last question to close it all out is, I guess, what does the future hold for you and for your channel? What do you kind of like? Do you have are you kind of, do you have any kind of plan in place to introduce any interesting new things over the next couple of years, or is it kind of business as usual, grow the way you have been? Are you loving YouTube, and do you want to stay on YouTube and kind of grow that out?
I do want to stay on YouTube and grow it out. I am looking to expand into maybe, a website or something, or an app. I don't know really what the future holds. I enjoy what I'm doing. I would like to expand one day, if the channel continues to grow, to actually have some type of studio, have different forms of content, some kind of like production value, some kind of production company with it, that we can shoot videos, different movies, or anything, commercials, all in regards to Lego, and still have some kind of Lego news as well. So kind of like a full little channel lineup.
Amazing. So you'd have multiple channels, kind of
Right.
all kind of taking different stance on things. Yeah.
That's great.
And do you feel like the Lego fan base on YouTube is like the audience would be there to grow a pretty large channel, like multiple large channels around it?
That I don't know. I hope so. I mean, you guys kind of give me proof that shows that you could have different segments of Lego. You can have Lego news, you can have Lego mocks, you can have Lego Star Wars separate. You guys can have Lego investing, and it would be nice sometimes though if you could actually go through like one umbrella, and you kind of just go in one channel and it gives you all of those, or they kind of have different segments throughout the day. But that could have to have something like that. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Wow. That's awesome. You heard it here first, everyone. You're going to need to get working on that Lego room, though, Marc.
Yeah, no.
Right. Can't wait to see that, my friend.
Hopefully soon.
Cool.
All right. Well, once again, that closes out another BriqBucks live show. Hope everybody enjoyed it. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please do so. And first and foremost, I love Briq Foundation's channel so much. I'm certain you've looked at it, but if you haven't, you need to take a look at it. And I highly encourage you to like and subscribe there. We will do this again in a couple weeks. We will put some information out in the near future. Other than that, stay tuned for our next video. Have a good night, everyone.
See you guys later. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks a lot.